Hey everyone, it's Jyoti Reiki, and I just spoke with Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop on some of his top priorities and views as he runs for governor. Check it out. Thank you so much for joining us. We are all joined by Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop. And for those of our voters who maybe don't know who you are, Mayor, can you just start off talking to us a little bit about why you decided to run for governor and what the most important issues are to you?
Well, Jyoti, thank you. My name is Stephen Fulop. I'm the current mayor of Jersey City. It is the single most diverse city in the country. I am a dad of three kids, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 1-year-old. And over the last 12 years, Jersey has been an unbelievable story on a renaissance front and a lot of accomplishments. But the reality is that if the state is going to be affordable for your family or my family, change needs to happen in Trenton. And we're talking about political reform as much as government reform.
So what are the top issues for you?
Well, I think, look, New Jersey struggles with affordability largely because you pay a corruption tax. You pay a tax based on this political system in New Jersey that is unique to New Jersey and drives, unfortunately, a lot of people out in New Jersey. And I think that needs to change. The conversation around property taxes is really important. I think the conversation around transportation really important.
I'm glad that you talked about affordability because that is one of the topics that we're
Yeah.
definitely going to be getting to. For the time that we have we're going to be talking about affordability, language access, mental health, immigration. So let's get right to it. As you probably know, at over 1 million strong, Asian Americans are the fastest growing group and voting demographic here in the state of New Jersey. In your experience, what are some of the key issues facing Asian Americans in the state?
Well, look, I think there's a couple things. I think the Asian American community wants good schools, safe communities, very mindful of the family values on that front. Affordability is a big topic. I mean, and then a lot of people in the Asian American community here come from entrepreneurial backgrounds, a lot of them in the medical field. I think those are things that the state government can do a better job embracing. And I think I have a track record in Jersey City on a lot of that stuff.
So let's talk about that. How have you helped identify and resolve some of these issues in the Asian
Well,
American
look, I
community
think
here?
there's a couple things. Look, I think elevating prominent people from the AAPI community into leadership roles is really important. I have a track record second to none. I think partnering with small businesses and really incentivizing growth and development, I've got a track record on that. And then on the healthcare front, look, I've been very, very intertwined with two hospitals here. One is Jersey Medical Center, one was Christ Hospital. And I have a track record of elevating medical professionals there and working very, very closely with them. So I think that a lot of the experiences that I've had here as mayor would translate very well to being governor.
Great. And how would you engage with this community on a higher level now if you are elected as governor?
I think a lot of it's the same model. I think you got to recognize that they are looking for opportunity, that affordability is a big issue, transportation, having messengers and ambassadors within the community is really important. I would start by saying that, our lieutenant governor, our partner, is going to be Sheena Collins. She's Korean American, and she is a prominent woman mayor in the state of New Jersey and a phenomenal executive. And I think that speaks to the commitment to the AAPI community more than any other candidate running for governor.
Yeah, that is one commitment definitely that you've made to the AAPI community. Can you give me some more specific commitments that you can make to the AAPI community, whether that's engaging on forums or, I'll let you
Yeah, I
tell
mean, look,
the story.
I think the forums are kind of common practice at this point, and I think my actions speak to the fact whether it's running Asian Americans in Bergen County for county commissioner, several of them running for state assembly and me putting resources in. So again, there isn't a candidate running for governor that has more intertwined support on the down ballot and on the governor's side than I do with the API community. My administration in Trenton would be the exact same thing. It would be elevating judges. It would be elevating commissioners, leadership positions from the API community, because it's important that the administration in Trenton reflects the state. And I think we can do a better job on that. And I have a track record in Jersey City of doing a great job on that.
Great, thank you. You have mentioned affordability several times, and that
Yeah.
is obviously a very important issue to voters this year. I read your Fix New Jersey plan on your website, and I wanted to ask you, because of a recent exit poll of Asian American voters here in New Jersey, they say that the economy is the number one
Yeah.
issue that they care about. And I don't need to tell you, but New Jersey is obviously one of the least affordable states in the country to live in. So talk to me about what your plans are to make it easier for residents to not only live in New Jersey, but to raise their families here as well.
I mean, look, the affordability conversation is a big one. I think that there's a lot of reasons people choose to live in New Jersey. It's a very rich place with diversity. That's important. It has a lot of culture and history. It's important. There's great schools. It's important. But the reality is that taxes and the affordability crisis have made it very, very complicated for people to stay here. So I think on the housing front, you need more supply and thoughtfulness around how do we grow housing here in order to meet the demand and drive down prices. We have a real comprehensive plan on that. I think that you need to really reform the whole tax code. You have things in New Jersey like farm tax credits, which is $500 million if you have a couple goats and beehives, and people abuse that stuff. I think we need to take a fresh look at that. I think that when Republicans make the case that there's billions of dollars in Christmas tree and unnecessary spending in the budget, there's truth to that. And I think coming from a place where I've been an executive for 12 years, responsible for close to $1 billion budget, brings me to a unique place relative to anybody else.
Okay, great. You know that we are at a shortage of 225,000 units, and
Yeah.
I know that you've spoken at length about what your plan is. How are you planning on having, the state catch up at a much more expedited rate than where we are
Yeah, I
currently?
mean, look, nobody understands housing more than Sheena and I. She has done a terrific job in a South Orange suburban municipality, and I've built 68 or approved 68,000 housing units here in Jersey City over the last couple of years. Look, today the NIMBYs are not my backyard, control the dialogue. So you got to wrestle that away by creating more transparency to where your municipality is in the obligation phase. I think that Trenton should do a better job of giving resources and money to those municipalities that are actually building housing. So you need to tie school funding and infrastructure to housing construction. That's the way you incentivize people. And I think a lot of the EDA grants, the grants that come from Trenton today, are largely targeted towards places like Jersey City, Hoboken, Newark, targeted for very, very tall, large scale, 50, 60-story buildings. They don't contemplate the suburban requirement and how do we get those places actually moving forward. And those are things that I would change just because I have a lot of experience with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's great that you mentioned that because I was going to talk to you about like the fact that, you would be a governor for the whole state of New Jersey. I know that you have done a lot of excellent work in making housing accessible and available in Jersey City, but Jersey City is different from, let's say, like a Manalapan,
Sure.
somewhere in Monmouth County. Like that's very different. And there's a housing crisis there as well. People can't afford to buy houses, and we have apartment complexes that are, being built, whether it's freehold, and they're not really affordable.
Yeah. I think that my commitment to this is evident by my partner. I'm a lieutenant governor. I touched on her earlier that she's from the AAPI community, but more than that, she is one of the premier mayors in the state of New Jersey, particularly around housing. And she complements my skill set perfectly. I come from an urban, large city that has done a lot of housing, tall, vertical housing. And she comes from a suburban town with 20,000 people, which is really like most of New Jersey. And so having those two perspectives together in Trenton is a really big asset, I believe.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's move on now to immigration because that is a huge topic that is up for discussion this election cycle. New Jersey's economy and communities depend on immigrants, including immigrants who are undocumented. And according to the American Immigration Council in New Jersey, immigrants account for 35% of entrepreneurs, 42% of STEM workers, and 30% of nurses. I know we talked moments ago about nurses and, Asian Americans that are in the medical industry. So do you support codifying, the New Jersey Immigrant Trust Directive through the New Jersey Immigrant Trust Act and full funding for the Defense and Deportation Initiative?
Yes, the short answer is yes. And there's not a person running for governor that has my track record on immigrants. I come from a family of immigrants. My family's Holocaust survivors, immigrated here. My father and mother had a small business in Newark, so I understand that entrepreneurial and immigrant spirit that are intertwined. When I got elected in 2014, I established an immigrant affairs office in City Hall. It's the only nationally accredited immigration affairs office in the country. We've been at the forefront of the refugee resettlement program in New Jersey for Ukraine and Afghanistan. We raised money during COVID to help undocumented families from the private sector so that they could actually have access to food and resources. So my track record is second to none. And most of the candidates running for governor won't talk about this issue of immigration because it's they view it as politically bad. I viewed exactly the opposite. You need to have a conversation because New Jersey has such a high number of immigrants. We need to understand that we're supportive of them and their family members. So the short answer is yes, I would pass that. And I have an extensive track record beyond just this campaign of really talking and speaking to the immigrant community.
So you would pass it, and what other measures then would you take to ensure that immigrants, no matter what their status is, can continue to contribute to our state?
I think you need to be stepping up in funding the nonprofit sector, that the experts in the immigration field that have seen their fundraising dry up because of the rhetoric from President Trump. So I think that that is one important step. I think that today the Motor Vehicle Commission sells data of documented and undocumented people to data brokers. That needs to stop, obviously. I think we need an attorney general, which I've been very clear on. Matt Platkin's been very clear that he would that he's been at the forefront of litigation against the president and the federal government. That's important because we need continuity on that front. So there are a lot of things that you could do for the immigrant community that aren't being done today and beyond the Immigrant Trust Act. And I think I stand alone in my advocacy for that.
Okay, great. We have so much to get to. I just
All
wrote
right.
like one question down. I have 10 more in my head. But before I forget, what are you looking for in an attorney general?
Well, I would give the current attorney general the opportunity to stay. I'm the only one that would say that because he's been really bold in pushing back against corruption in New Jersey and also pushing back against the federal government. And continuity is crucial. So you don't want a new attorney general that's starting from square one and learning all the steps. You want somebody that has familiarity with the process, particularly in this moment in time. It's very dangerous for New Jersey, and we need to make sure that we're mindful of that.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. And are you familiar with Victoria Lee?
Yes.
The 20. Okay, so that's a reason why I ask you is because obviously that case is still ongoing. The Attorney General's office is still investigating. Just your thoughts for the Asian American community, because this was obviously a very large issue. It touched on so many things.
Yeah.
Police violence, mental health. Just talk to me about what your thoughts are and what your plans are for this investigation as it's ongoing, and it has been ongoing
Look,
for quite a while now.
It is a terrible and tragic situation. There's no question about it. I'm hesitant to cast judgment until the facts and investigation comes out. And the reason I say that is because we've had issues in Jersey City where police have interacted with people with mental health issues or in crisis, and it's ended up, unfortunately, being similar predicaments there. And we always refer to the Attorney General for a proper investigation, and we push the Attorney General to pursue that. Just this last week, we had one that came back no bill, meaning that they didn't believe that the police acted improperly, although it ended in a very, very tragic situation. And we as a city need to learn how we can do better even in those situations. Despite the fact that it wasn't viewed as a criminal act by the police department, it still is much room for improvement on how we act better. So I'm hesitant, Jyoti, to really say that this way or that way. I mean, I've seen the videos that are publicly like everybody else. It's very concerning, obviously, but I think we should just wait for the Attorney General to finish the investigation. The hope is that these things move a little bit faster. I mean, the one that I was referencing today has been taken 2 years to get to this place last week where they released it. And I think we need a better, more quick process in order to make people feel comfortable. 2 years is a long time to wait for a verdict on these things.
Right. Yeah, it is a long time. What are your plans for police reform and, pairing that with mental health initiatives?
I think the Attorney General and the Governor has done a good job of putting resources towards a program where there are mental health professionals driving along with police departments. But the reality is that the hardest cases where somebody's in crisis and potentially violent, those mental health professionals don't interact with because they cannot go into a place where a person could potentially be harmed or armed. And that's at the core of the issue here. So you're always going to have the police leading first in situations where there's a potential violent situation. And that's an important point. That's standard protocol in the country, and that doesn't change because you can't have a nurse or a mental health professional or an EMS person come in first if they think the person is armed. And that tends to be the case in a lot of this. So what can you do? you could train your police officers more and more around mental health crises and issues on that. So that way, knowing that they're going to be the first people entering in the most difficult circumstances, that they have the equipment and the knowledge necessary to both protect themselves if it becomes violent, but at the same time, make sure that they're acting in the best interest of the person that is going through an episode at that point. Training is key to that. And you're never going to be able to substitute the police officers entirely.
Okay, so just so I can make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, is part of your plan to, you know, increase training for police officers
Yes.
in order to bridge that gap?
Yeah. I mean, we changed the police department here in Jersey City in massive ways. When I came in here, it was 750 police officers. It was predominantly Caucasian. Um, and despite the fact it's the single most diverse city in the country, and we had roughly 22 to 27 homicides per year. Last year, we had 7 homicides, the lowest in any large city east of Texas. And the reason that that's happened is because we reformed the police department. We've created more accountability, more supervision. We've hired a lot more police officers. But at the core of the reason that we've seen progress is two things: community partnerships and training. Training. You need to really prepare your officers so that they get into these situations, that they have the ability to act quickly. And we've done that, and it's proved to be very helpful, both in crisis situations like this to lower homicide rates, and also around mass shooting incidents where we've invested a lot of money. But training is key in allocating those dollars, and Trenton needs to be a partner with municipalities to do that.
And you did create a training bureau, correct me if I'm wrong.
We did. We have the most state-of-the-art, not only training bureau, but training facility in the state of New Jersey. We put in probably, I think, $10 million around that, and it has real-time simulators that put an officer in almost every situation you could possibly imagine, and it's a real-life type of AI simulation. So it's really, really a helpful tool. And now we have other departments come and rent it and use our training facility, which is a good thing.
Let's talk a little bit about anti-Asian hate. Along with other groups here in New Jersey, Asian Americans do continue to experience record high bias and hate incidents. We talked about this a little bit, with xenophobic rhetoric that contributes to a climate of suspicion and hostility.
Yeah.
So how will you support initiatives that provide resources and support services for victims of hate and bias incidents, including mental health, which we talked about a little bit,
Yeah.
legal assistance, and community-based advocacy programs, which are tailored specifically to the AAPI community?
Look, I think there's no question that it's not just AAPI community. I mean, anti-Semitism is on the rise, racism is on the rise. You could ask the ADL, you could ask any of these organizations. And unfortunately, we're in a place in the country where that is becoming more and more acceptable. I think there are times and places that the governor could have done better in being more vocal around these sort of issues. Education in schools and allocating money towards that is really, really important to moving people forward. And I think as governor, I would do that. And I have a track record regarding Asian hate crimes. I mean, we elevate them so people understand that they're happening. Awareness is key, the same way we act around anti-Semitism. And then we try our best to use the police resources in a responsible way. When we see anything regarding hate, we try to take it down as quick as possible so it doesn't persist in our community. And I think that the Asian Americans in Jersey City would say that I've been a good mayor on this front.
Let's stick a little bit with education, because
Yeah.
you may know AAPI New Jersey has the TASK program, which is Teach Asian American Stories, and they do receive a portion of federal funding, and this goes along with the curriculum mandate to teach Asian American stories,
Yeah.
which was put in place as part of the Murphy administration. Just giving you a little bit of background in case
Yeah.
you're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
What are your plans to either expand that, continue that, and have Asian American stories taught in schools?
I mean,
And
look, I think this is a good thing that Phil Murphy and the administration have started, and I'd hope to build on it. I think that it's very important in a state like New Jersey that we understand that we're a state of immigrants and we have a lot of people with different backgrounds, and understanding who those people are and where they come from and their stories that brought it here. And I think that education in schools, starting particularly in elementary school, is very, very important to this sort of conversation. So I think it's a good thing that Phil Murphy has done, and I would continue to allocate money to it.
okay, great, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Let's talk about what's going on in California, New York, because of course you would be the governor for the whole state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
They have recognized the historic disinvestment in the Asian American community, and they have introduced budgets that include millions of dollars specifically designated for nonprofits that serve or specialize working with the AAPI community. AAPI New Jersey has proposed that our state does the same and provide funding to support domestic violence programs,
Yeah.
health centers, community programs, and other vital services to reach New Jersey's 1 million plus Asian Americans. So would you support this in your state budget?
I would support all of that in my state budget, and I would go a step further. I would tell you that my actions speak to the importance of the AAPI community. I go back to the fact that my partner in this process is from the AAPI community. The lieutenant governor that I've selected to be my partner is directly tied into the AAPI community. She's Korean American, and I think it speaks to the importance on this. And yes, funding all of the above is very, very important for New Jersey.
Can you commit to, I don't know, maybe a certain figure today or certain programs or
Listen,
something?
I'm not in the business of making promises that I can't keep, in particularly in this moment in time. I'd love to, but we don't know what President Trump is going to cut from the budget. So if I told you that we would commit $1 billion and then you have these massive cuts, I don't want to be disingenuous with what I'm saying. I think my actions speak to that, this being a priority, and I always follow through in what I say. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody that would say that he didn't follow through on what he said. This is a priority for me, and we will allocate money to it. You could mark my words on that. What the dollar amount is going to be a function of what does the budget look like next year after President Trump has decimated us.
We don't have a lot of time left, and I want to get to, what is going on in Newark with the detention facilities. If just for 2 minutes, you can talk to me about, if you support the opening of migrant
No.
detention center.
No.
Okay.
No, I think that President Trump's entire approach on this is ill-advised, and I think that we need to be a country that understands that there is due process, and we have a constitution in place that protects everybody that is in this country at this moment in time. And I think that we're going far away from that at this point. And it's a slippery slope before you start going back to times that were very, very dark in world history, when you start vilifying different communities and vilifying people and allow them to be rounded up and publicly displayed and humiliated. So I think that we are in a very dangerous place on this. And the short answer on that is no, I do not. I think people are entitled to due process. The Constitution applies, and I do not support the way he's acting right now.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, we only have 2 minutes exactly left, so I appreciate the fact that we were able to get through so much in such short time. Just to kind of close things off, can you just talk to me a little bit about what voters can expect from you if they were to elect you as governor?
They would expect, and they will get, somebody that is very detail oriented, somebody that has a track record of transformation, somebody that is outside the traditional political system that can lean into political reform, somebody that understands municipal government and state government, and somebody that will get results, whether it's schools, whether it's affordability, whether it's transportation. Nobody has the track record I do, and I will be able to get results. And most importantly, for the AAPI communities, my track record is second to none with regards to partnerships on this front and elevating people in the AAPI community. It's more than just words, it's actions, and that's what people can expect as a governor when I get there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mayor Fulop.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. The primary election is on June 10th. Voting by mail has already started, and you can vote early from June 3rd to the 8th. Thank you all so much for watching.